Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris, Rob, and Willie, part of the Nova Insider Network. Back with you. It is Monday at roughly 8:23. The College Football National Championship is underway, featuring Georgia and former Big East member TCU.
That's a great trivia fact, by the way. Like, really great one.
Trivia member, Big East member for like 5 seconds before the whole fucking thing went to shit. But yeah, back to you. After the loss to Xavier on Saturday evening, I was at the game. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to cover Xavier, that game, kind of in the context of all the problems that have been dogging this team this season, and especially of late, because I feel like the Xavier game really just shed a light on all of them. So we're going to talk about that. We'll get into previews for the DePaul, Butler, and Georgetown games, although I don't think we'll preview Georgetown too hard. We have some...
Considering we just played them.
Yeah. We have some news or not news on the Jordan Longino injury. So a good amount to cover, and we're going to keep this as fast and quick moving as we can. So let's dig right into it. And I'm actually going to start before we get into Xavier. I want to talk real quick about Jordan Longino. There was a tweet today that said Kyle Neptune said he has no updates on Jordan Longino and to look out for something from the school in 2 days. And that writer with the Philadelphia Inquirer went on to say, that doesn't sound good to me, right? Like, and I agree. If the school's going to put out something in a couple days, that means it's usually a press release, and a press release usually comes along with a season-ending injury notification, right? Then you have on the other side another reporter saying, talk to Kyle Neptune. He doesn't have much of an update, but Longino remains day-to-day, and that we'll hear more in a couple days. So the couple days refrain stays the same. But in one sense, when you hear that, it says day-to-day, have an update in a couple days, tells me like day-to-day and probably not playing versus Butler, but maybe not playing against DePaul, but maybe the Butler or Georgetown games. And then the other one just reads like, a press release is going to come. It doesn't say that, but a press release is going to come from Villanova in a couple days. And as I said from the get-go here, if you're telling me that the school, like as in the athletics department or whatever, is announcing something about a player, that to me is a transfer or an injury. And it's not a transfer. It's a season-ending injury. Like, it's going to read Jordan Longino suffered a torn MCL and is undergoing surgery today and will miss the remainder of the season. Something along those lines. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's what I expect to hear when I read the first tweet. And then when I read the second tweet, I'm like, maybe he plays in a week. So,
but it's also like, I think to jump onto the speculation bandwagon, day to day doesn't usually require an update in a few days. It's just like, oh yeah, you're day to day. Like that's what it is. Like, we'll see. Like, you'll play pretty soon. It's not day to day and there's an update. And there's an update to me says like, yeah, this is probably going to be pretty bad. So I'm definitely, if I'm a betting man, I'm absolutely on the train of he's probably going to be out a while. It's still a weird, like, I don't know. It's still a weird thing to be like, the school's going to release an update. So like, you clearly know something. You're just choosing not to share it, which is fine, but I would deliver it a little bit differently, but to each their own.
Nothing about this makes sense. Like, starting from the actual injury, when we saw it, Longino just couldn't walk. Like, it was they just couldn't walk. So it's like, all right, clearly I thought he was going to be out. I basically thought it was something that was done for the year. And then we pan to him on the bench like 30 minutes later. He's like laughing and smiling, and it seems like he's going to be okay. So I'm like, kudos on like, being able to mask it and like hide everything. But it felt weird. And then Kyle said, we're not really worried about him. He should be back soon with it. We're just trying to we're going to do an MRI and figure out how long. And then we're saying everything that we have here. Nothing makes sense to me anymore. Day to day is bullshit. Day to day is just, we're all day to day. So whenever I hear that, it tells me literally nothing. We'll see when, I don't know, Father Peter tweets out whatever this is.
Yeah. Rob was day to day on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true.
So I did talk a little bit very briefly with Tommy Godin, who does work with Road to the Garden and VU Hoops. And he said that Neptune, he reminded me that Neptune used to describe Cam Whitmore's status as day to day. So day to day may be in Neptune parlance, and every coach has like a different way of saying things, but it might be in Kyle Neptune parlance. Day to day means that like I'm just not giving you more info, but don't hold your breath.
That's
right? Like
it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Now that's not what it means to the average human being.
Yeah, no.
The average human being,
day to day is like, oh, you're going to play like in the next day or so.
questionable
Clearly.
/ probable, right?
Yes.
Like that's to me, like to put it in NFL terms, right? Like questionable / probable. When I hear day to day, that's where I am falling in between those two things.
Yo, day to day on my fantasy football is like 95% playing, and then I get the update 5 minutes before, like, nah, he's out. Like, fuck that shit.
So, all right. So that's the Jordan Longino thing. Now, we did see what is going to happen rotational wise with the team with Longino out. Trey Patterson's minutes have increased substantially over the last 3 halves of basketball. He played a fair amount in the second half of the Georgetown game, and he played a very good deal of minutes in the Xavier game. So that's something that we did see. I did like, just to zero in on him for just 1 minute, I did like the minutes that we got from Patterson. He still gets lost in the switching defense, which is at this point, I'm like, all right, like I hope it clicks for him because he's been with the program for a couple of years. So like I hope that he starts to really click. But he also did make a lot of good defensive plays, effort plays. He helped a bit on the glass, I felt. And so I did like the minutes that he provided. And I also, as we've said on the podcast before, I just am really tired of this program not playing guys who have been in the program for a year and a half plus. Like it's one thing if it's a freshman and he needs work and whatever, like I get that. But like with Nana and Trey, I'm like, guys, they're in the program, they're sophomores. Like you got to find a way to get them on the court. So even though it happened because of an injury, we did see early flashes of Trey Patterson throughout the season. Now we're going to see a little bit more of him. So I think that'll be positive for his development long term. So
he looked stronger. Like it felt, even in the Georgetown game, it felt like I was, we'll see how it takes with how this comes. It felt like I was watching Arch, where it's like, all right, he's still making mistakes, but like he's generally like figured it out. I don't feel terrible. I was like, maybe he'll even take and make a shot, like just feeling, because he feels a little bit more confident. So hopefully I'm going off the fact that I see, what is that, Jarez Walker as your background?
Yeah, I was just on ESPN and I came across him. I was like, "Holy shit, he is absolutely ripped!" Like that's a man right there.
He's a
freshman.
freshman.
I'd show everybody. He's a freshman. Bullshit.
Yeah, he'll go top 15.
Holy cow, that's wild. Anyway,
Hey, I work there.
Just want to show everybody he's really jacked.
That's my office.
All that to say, I felt better about Trey's minutes. I think we'll see some sort of progress or comfortability, if that's even a word, as the season goes on. But I'm assuming Jordan's done for the year. And so that's why we'll see Trey eventually get the 5 to 8 minutes a game, just at least for rotational depth.
Yeah.
Which actually, just as an aside, now that I'm thinking about it, not that it really matters from our standpoint because we switch everything, but like in theory, we're not getting a person with more size who can do this. So in theory, we have a person who can switch on to like, I'm gonna say 5s. I don't really buy it, but like he has more size than Longino at the very least.
Yeah, Longino's stronger, more stocky.
Yeah,
stocky's a bad word, but like you get my point. Sturdy.
He was a quarterback.
He did play football. Yeah.
Trey's a little bit longer. And seeing Trey in person, by the way, holy shit, he is actually like he's got really good length.
Yeah.
So that was actually kind of illuminating. Sometimes I actually do really believe that like you need to watch the team multiple times on television and in person to get a real feel for the team, and like both, like they provide such different flavors of like what you're actually watching in a way to ingest what's going on the court. So I do recommend going to games. So I'll come back to that though. Let's talk about Xavier. So Xavier game, now they're number 12 as of today. They were top 25 coming into the game. They've beaten UConn last week. They've looked the part of a really, really good team. We knew going in, as you heard on our podcast with Paul Fritchner, that they are an elite offensive unit. We certainly experienced that. Maybe Michigan was the last time that I can remember a team hanging 88 on us
88
at the
That's a
Finneran
big
Pavilion.
number.
Did
Wow.
Michigan hang 88 on us? I want to say they did.
I don't know.
But-
They hung like 150 on us. It was a rough game.
But like that was the first time in a long time I can remember having that many points scored on us. I actually think Howard maybe
They only
scored like
scored
80 points on us last year or something like
They
that.
only scored 73. Howard did. Howard scored like 80 on us.
I think we won like that Howard game the beginning of last season, like 100 to 80 or some shit like that.
100 to 81.
Wow. So memory is that's a weird game to remember.
Also, let's clarify too. Xavier scored 53 in the second half.
Yeah.
Yikes. It's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah. Now some of that's free throws, right? Like,
But it's 53 points.
yeah.
Like last 10 points are basically free throws, but regardless.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So look, we saw their elite defense. I mean, we saw their elite offense. We also scored 80. So we saw that the fact that we were decent enough on offense, and they gave us some space offensively to operate. And so we were able to actually score a pretty high amount of points. But there was a lot to take away from this game, as I really felt like this game was kind of a microcosm of the entire season, is that on your home floor, you'd expect a game that you are the worst team to still be closer as a result. In some ways, maybe it was. But this team just did not, this team being us, did not have, in my view, from watching the game and being there in person, the horses to really like match up with Xavier, at least at this point in the season. And there was nothing about our team. I kept coming back to this notion after the game. We are the sum of our parts at best. And we seem to always be the sum of our parts. We're like, especially since Whitmore's back, we're not usually that much worse than the sum of our parts.
Yeah.
But we're never, the whole is never better than the sum of the parts on this team.
Yeah.
That's how
we're at least getting the parts at this point.
Yeah, we're getting the parts. And I can't remember, especially since Whitmore back, I can't remember a team that just seemed to like operate in like a very tight window, like floor, Villanova, ceiling, right? Like it's like there's a very little diversity between the floor and ceiling of this team. Like you would think that a home game versus two ranked opponents in a row with a team that is cusp bubble, right? Like, and I'm not saying we are on the bubble by any stretch of the imagination. 8-8, we'll talk about what this means for the rest of the season. But like in theory, you're going into this at like, Ken Palm 60, Ken Palm 50, in the net to be on the bubble team. And some bubble out teams win some games against ranked opponents during the season. That's how college basketball works.
That's how you stay on the bubble.
Yeah. You'd think that at some point in time, you'd pick off one of these teams because you play over your head in a big game moment or whatever at home. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like this team has the extra gear. And I don't know where that comes from. Like, it's just very broad and we get into why. I don't know where exactly that comes from. The biggest issue from my mind watching this team play, the defense is really not good. Like watching it on TV, that defense not good. You see late closeouts, you see whatever. Watching it in person, like when we were playing Xavier, I felt like, and I kept making this comment to Brian, thank you for the ticket, and people sitting around me. I felt like it took us 10 seconds of a defensive possession to like settle into the defense that we were trying to play. Right? Like, and some of that Xavier, they move quick, but like some of it's just like effort, focus, intelligence, basketball IQ, etc. We're just waiting to like, okay, they're set now. They're at the top of the key with the point guard. Now we know where we are and who we're guarding. And it's like secondary transition defense is it just didn't exist. We were getting crushed on that.
It was terrible. It was at no point, I felt like we were constantly getting back and Xavier was even with us. And if you're even, you're leaving. And it was just buckets every time in transition. Even if it wasn't a pure transition bucket, it was coming off the secondary action. It was a result of us being even with them. And what I mean by even is like as they're advancing the ball, we're still running down court with them and not set. And because we weren't set, and it, like you said, it takes us 10 seconds to get set. By the 20-second mark, Xavier has an advantage play, and Fremantle's just sitting there wide open, drilling jumpers. Or Boom's getting into the lane, and like, of course, Boom was going to do what he's going to do, but like, it was just everything about how we got in. I don't think we made it difficult on Xavier at all, in any way, shape, or form defensively in this game. I think it was, if anything, it was both offenses go out there and let's just see what happens, and we'll just roll, and Xavier's a better offense. They have a better point guard. They're deeper, and that's how you lose by 8 at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like to the point, Blighty, about like looking at the players we have. I don't know. I just look at our roster right now for the Xavier game, and it's like, all right, Whitmore, Dixon, Daniels, like, yeah, it's good players. And then after that, I look down, I'm like, Arch, okay, Slater, like, yeah, Armstrong, I've been excited about at points during the season, but like the drop off between those top three and then the next three guys is pretty significant. I think that's something that we're not used to. So in terms of like taking it to the next level and picking off some of those wins, like, yeah, we haven't seen a whole lot from the rest of those guys who usually key in and are able to help you pick up some of those wins. Like, there's just nothing there. It's like, yeah, we've got our top guys, they're executing, and everybody else, a little bit along for the ride at the moment.
Yeah. So let's talk. Go ahead, Willie.
And I was just to that point, it was one of those games where, like, I mean, like you said, Cam, Eric, and Caleb had fucking fantastic games. They played. Cam had a game that will be on his highlight reel when he goes to the NBA because it was a fantastic game for him. And it was weirdly enough, none of them were fantastic enough to like be the delta from the 8 points. They were the reason that we were even in the game, but like I can't even say we needed more from them because like they gave everything you could expect. If you told me those three scored 26, was it 20 and 19?
26, 23, and 19.
There we go. Yeah, I would be like, oh, okay, so we won.
But yeah, by like 15. Like that's a terrific stat line for your top three guys.
Yeah.
Like that's wild.
Yeah.
The only other thing I could think of is the more that we didn't get from Slater and Daniels and where like there were 4 3-pointers that I can count that were like halfway down that didn't go down. Now, like that changes the game, but like, you know, you can't count those obviously, but I'm just making the point that there were open looks that were almost this close to getting converted, but it's just at this point, to the point that we talked about earlier on the season, Rob, I'm going to give you credit on this. We're not a good shooting team. Not just straight up, not a good shooting team. And you were right on that earlier in the season. I thought that we regressed to some better mean to some degree we have, but in this game, we had open looks and we couldn't can the ones that we needed for this to be really, really tight.
We have, on any given day, we have 4 players who can score the basket. We have Cam, we have Dixon, we have Daniels. Maybe Slater's on and he can score, but that's a maybe. Maybe Armstrong has it figured out in the game and he can go. Beyond that, it's Arch, it's Hausen who I think can score, but it's such spot minutes that I can't depend on that even inconsistently. And then Trey, who has taken 3 shots all year, and Arch, who we know isn't going to score. At the end of the day, we are playing 4 on. Xavier had 8 players take a shot and do something offensively with the basketball. We're playing 4 on 8 offensively.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that happened in the game, because I want to talk a bit about coaching, right? Like you saw an excellent, top 10, 15 coach in Sean Miller. I don't know exactly where you put him. I'm not trying to hate. If Xavier fans think he's top 5, great. That's not my point. I'm not trying to make.
He's pretty much like a tier 1A coach.
Yeah, right. That's my point, right? And then a very brand new coach in Kyle Neptune. Now, early in the game, Xavier was doing their thing. I think we got down 19-11 or 19-12, something like that early on. And we turned the tide in the game. What turned in that? Kyle made an adjustment to our offense, where he started to make sure that the guys on offense got Cam into a position where he could be successful. That's one thing that I think we miss in some games. When Cam doesn't play well, sometimes it's him just settling. A lot of times it's him settling because offense is not helping him whatsoever, right? Like at all. Like the team's offense was designed around the first 7 games because he was hurt, and then he got unhurt, and then it was a matter of like, okay, well, Cam just gonna sub into that? Well, not exactly right, because the way we were playing basketball was like ISO ball, backing guards down the post, and doing some of the things that we've been accustomed to as Villanova fans for the past several years, and a lot of other like just Dixon bully ball and Daniels bully ball and whatever, and 3-pointers, right? And so that was kind of the offense beforehand, and we kind of transitioned that in, and Cam's in the offense now, and he's not, and he had a couple games where he was successful because he was hitting those step back settled for jumpers, and teams didn't have a full scout on him. And then as soon as teams got a scout on him, it was like, oh, he had a few bad games in a row. Now, lately, I have seen that Kyle has gotten him into better positions, like from a positioning standpoint on the court, from like guys setting picks, secondary picks, etc., running a little bit of action to get him engaged. And once we do that and give him the ability to make a first step or make a cut, he's electric, right? Like the baseline drives that we've gotten him into because we got him into a mismatch on the baseline, like things like that we were not doing before. That was something that Kyle did in like the under 12 timeout or right around that point in time. And the game went from like 19-12 to like 29-25. And I thought that was a great adjustment by Kyle in that first half. Second half comes along. Sorry, not the first half. The end of the first half comes along. Sean Miller makes an adjustment to run all of their offense through action at either the top of the key or the elbow from Fremantle. All of their action, like all of the last, if you went back and watched tape of that game, the last like 10 to 12 offensive possessions that Xavier ran in that end of that first half all went through Fremantle action at the top of the key, and they absolutely carved us up, and we had no answer for it. So you see kind of like the coaching like back and forth going into halftime, and we ended the half down 35-31. And if you look at it, we played the rest of the game kind of like at arm's length from Xavier from there. So that coaching adjustment that Miller made was critical. And then we couldn't stop Fremantle at all in the second half of that game. He absolutely lit us up.
I want to just go back to what you said about Cam. I've been a pretty big, like, I haven't said it on the pod, but we've been using Cam wrong. And maybe I had said, I don't remember what I say on this thing, but we have been using Cam wrong, and we finally used him correctly. Cam, when he goes to the NBA and he's playing with an NBA level point guard, will score 10 to 12 points just off of cuts and dunks because he's that athletic, he's that special. And for the first time in his entire Villanova career, which has been like 10 games, so I'm not like absurdly upset because it takes time, but for the first time we've used him properly, and that was a really good adjustment by Kyle. My issue with what we've seen from Kyle, and we can get into what happened where he subbed in Chris and Trey for at the under 6 or whatever time it was.
Oh man.
But he'll make one adjustment, but he doesn't have the counter. And that's being a young coach, but he just doesn't have that counter yet. And we saw Sean Miller just take him to school.
Did you guys talk about this? Apologies to our listener base. I'm sure they were so offended I wasn't on the podcast last week. Did you guys talk about this this point last week that we were talking about beforehand of like the fact that like Kyle is basically just like he is, call it what it is, like he's a very inexperienced coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did get into we got into that. We got into that a little bit. I do want to talk a little bit about the inexperience though. Like I feel like Kyle is searching for like, okay, like it's almost like he has like PTSD from being an assistant coach to Jay, and he like wants to make sure that he gets all the guys minutes that he's like looking through. And I've heard stories. There was a guy who read on a Twitter thread. He said he sat behind the Villanova bench during the Xavier game, and he could hear Neptune being like, "How many minutes this guy have? How many? All right, I gotta get this guy minutes." Like he's like actively like overthinking, trying to figure out his personnel moves.
Yeah.
And one thing I did sense, and by the way, I'd rather this than the opposite. I'd rather him being an overthinker and then like figure out with time and feel of the game and how to be a head coach, like kind of settle into something better than someone who underthinks it and then has to be taught to learn how to think harder on the fly. But he came across to me that sub that he made with 6 minutes left with Trey and Arch coming in right at the moment where we seemed with our lineup to start to climb back into it. Like we cut it down to 4. Xavier felt like they were on their heels a little bit. They called timeout. We have cams going off. Caleb's hitting shots. Like this game, and the atmosphere in the pavilion was loud and it was bumping. It was like this.
That's a rare occurrence in the pavilion.
Yeah, and this place was ready to explode. And so it was like right there. And then all of a sudden he subs in Arch and Trey, and Brian can attest to this. I turned to a couple of people around me and I said, put a pin in this moment in the game because let's just see what happens here, because I feel like Kyle is trying to hold water until the under 4, and it could get ugly really fast. And literally it was like 5 points. It was a 9-point game in like 30 seconds.
Do you think he has his moves like pre-planned where he's basically like, okay, at this point I'm doing this? Like this goes back to, again, I missed the conversation last week, so if you guys went into this, but like I'm sure you guys talked about like some of the previous games, it was like, okay, there's 5 minutes left. This is the lineup I'm rolling out. There's no way I'm changing my lineup. And like, I don't know, he's like a rookie quarterback in the NFL, right? He has like one read, and if like the first read's not there, he's kind of like, okay, like I don't know, that was my read, and that's what I'm rolling with. Do you think he's doing that? Or it's just like that was my plan, and like I'm gonna stick with it? So therefore, like I'm ignoring kind of the momentum, and he's not in the flow quite as much, if you will.
I think he's got a mental like clock going on of being like, I had these guys on the floor for long enough. And then I also think that he's just a big, and I think we're going to see this, and I've seen this many times in the past with during this season. I think he's a big, like, I want to get this sub in to get a certain guy rest for 90 extra seconds leading into immediate timeout. I think he thinks like, if I can get a guy a minute of game action rest plus immediate timeout, that's really good rest.
But
and
it
then I'll
really
put it
doesn't
back
matter.
in.
It really doesn't matter.
He's overthinking that. He's overthinking that.
These are 20-year-old guys. Like, yeah, if you as we talked about on previous podcasts, if you run somebody to the ground like game after game after game, sure, it takes a toll, but like a single game, it's not gonna make a difference.
I don't know if you guys remember, but do you remember when we played Penn? Like we got the lead up to like 15 points or something like that. Yeah. And then he subbed in some lineup with like 9 minutes left. And it was like Trey, Hausen, like Chris Arch, like, and then like Brizzy, and it was like all these guys who like had no business being on the floor for Villanova together all at once at this point in time in their careers. And it was literally like, it went from 15, like Dingle scored like 8 unanswered. It was like a 7-point game all of a sudden again.
Yep.
Like he keeps doing that. He wants to get to a extended break for some of his guys going into immediate timeout. It's just overthinking it.
Just to give you what the numbers were, it was 61-57. Dixon made a layup. The subs came in, and 3 minutes later, it's 69-60. And that's the game.
Yeah. Chris, should we talk about your pavilion experience?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So,
have you been there before?
Yeah, I've been to the
new one,
the Finn, if you will.
Have you been there post pandemic?
Yes, I've been post pandemic with Brian last year. I went to the Providence game with Brian last year.
Okay,
that was the one that I went to post pandemic. Pre pandemic, I had been for like a game versus Butler, and it was actually, I think, the pandemic season. So I've been, the game day experience now that they've done the renovations is objectively very good. I don't love that you can't go from the second floor to the first floor. I think that whole thing is a little bit silly.
It's silly.
But like they
so wait, important question. Does Brian have the good tickets?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Brian has really good tickets.
Okay, so
We
you
were
got,
sitting.
you got the tier 1, baby. You
We
get,
were
you
sitting.
get the, oh yeah, I'm going downstairs. Look,
Oh yeah, we were
Yes,
sitting like
yes.
8 rows behind the Xavier bench.
that's pretty good.
Pretty nice.
So it was quite nice, and we sit literally right behind the Xavier parents. So like
Ew.
Zach Fremantle's parents were like 3 rows in front of us.
So the guy that sits next to me is awesome guy, great fan. He gets very angry at the refs, but everything else is friendly, fun. So that kid made a really good move. And you could tell this is his family in front of you. They're both over 6 feet, the parents. There's like a brother who's like 6'7". And he's like, man, that guy must have good parents. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it was very funny. It was very
yeah,
funny.
he has a big smile on his face, so it's like welcoming. It's like
That's really
welcoming.
good. That's well played.
So look, the pavilion experience is objectively pretty good. They have like a Chickies and Pete's station, so you get the crab fries, they get beers, etc. The lines weren't terrible, but the stadium was pretty full. I really
You
thought
did
it
your
was.
review. You did your review.
I
Right?
did do
Yeah.
a review. I did do a
Wait,
review.
how did this come about? Because I was a little skeptical. I was like, did you just like find somebody? You're like, hey, interview me. Like, I want to do like a.
No. So this is
Okay.
Tommy Godin. I brought him up before. He does Road to the
Okay.
Garden and View
Yeah.
Hoops. He's there for every game day. And every game at the pavilion, he tries to try a new food and then rank it. But he's got like a very specific ranking system. It's basically ranked against other stadium food, right? So like as a general concept. So like, if you get stadium food, you're not getting the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Right, like, yeah. So he does that every game. He's done, I don't know, boneless wings. He's done a bunch of different stuff, right? And he gives everything kind of falls into like this anywhere from like a 5 to an 8. I forget exactly what his rankings, what his high end or low end is.
Way too nice.
He's a little too nice, but like generally speaking, my food experience at the new pavilion has been pretty good. So like
Yeah,
I
it's not
kind of
bad.
yeah, I kind of get it. He ordered a cheesesteak. He wanted me to have a cheesesteak. Now, I think I've said it on this podcast, but I definitely said it there. Every time I eat a cheesesteak before or during a Villanova basketball game, we lose. Like straight up. I just have really bad juju about cheesesteaks. I've done it way too many times. We've lost to Georgetown after I've eaten a cheesesteak. Like I'm just not. I'm just not bringing that into the ether. Like we need everything to go right, and even with that, we still lost by 8. Right. So he reviewed a cheesesteak. I reviewed a brisket sandwich. I went up to the second floor, got myself a brisket sandwich. It was on like a brioche bun
with the commoners.
With like a herb mayo. It was quite good. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I wasn't expecting stadium brisket to be great. And
That's a risk. I'm going to be so honest.
It was okay.
Would you call it a
herb mayo?
A risket? Willie?
It was a risk.
Boo.
I am the dad, and you're the one making the dad jokes.
it's always my role.
The herb mayo was excellent. The bun was really good too. The side of chips was fine. The brisket itself was good enough. Like,
means bud like the weed?
What?
You say bud like weed? Like the chronic drugs? Did you say the bud was good?
The bun.
I don't
The
think
bun.
so.
Bun. Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot more sense.
You know what Brian has on his mind right now. Jeez.
Yeah. So I did that. Had a Miller Lite or 3. And he reviewed the cheesesteak. So I did it on video. So like I would do it again. I enjoyed it. I do like the food reviews. I can't say I'm the biggest Barstool guy, but I do find the Dave Portnoy pizza reviews to be quite funny, and like I like that mentality. I don't have his charisma by any stretch of the imagination, but I still thought it was fun. I think the video came out pretty good, aside from the fact that it was hard to hear. Tommy did not get the fact that you need to scream into the microphone. I was yelling at the top of my lungs.
Rachel, yes.
Sorry, I raised my hand for our viewers who can't see ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, I was going to say the video review, I think we need to do some more food reviews. The Villanova's going to stink and we don't have that much to talk about.
That's true. I like that.
Honestly,
we should fill the air with something that makes people a little happier. It's definitely our like top performing post so far this season. So Chris, you might be onto something.
We should do a most dangerous game, hunt a wildcat, and then cook it and eat it.
I like this, Brian. This is very dangerous.
Yeah.
That's
Though most dangerous game you hunt one another, but I'll
Well,
allow
it's
I'll
like-
allow the mistake.
like family
Well,
friendly.
we could either hunt Wildy Cat in the uniform, or we could hunt, I don't know.
If we chased Wildy Cat with weapons around campus while he or she is in uniform, that would,
I think
that
we'd
would
catch
win
him.
everything.
I think we'd catch him pretty
Yeah.
quick.
That's what we call content.
I
Baby.
think we could. I think we could.
The
This-
fans
this
are
has
asking
quickly
for it.
devolved into something ridiculous.
How now? Like, how would Villanova fans do that? You kind of like trap them with a sweater vest and beat them with a golf club, right? That's how you would. That's kind of how you would do it, right?
No, he's just gonna trip over his untied Sperry's.
That's
Well
very true.
done. Well done. I like that. I would be open to doing food reviews. I'd ask our listeners if they enjoyed it enough that they would want more to happen. I would be open to it.
Well, since our team sucks this year, let's do it. Gotta vote for a yes right here.
We need alternate streams of content.
Yeah.
We Brian and I did go to Kelly's afterwards. There was a mild crowd, clearly a break game, so there was a mild crowd at Kelly's, but the Kelly's is still pretty good.
I'm always
So-
surprised at how few people are at Kelly's. Like when I go, obviously I'm going at like off times, but I figured like pregame and stuff, there'd always be more of a crowd. And there never seems to be for whatever
It's
reason.
not-
Kelly's
it's not for
isn't
the
even
kid.
open for lunch on most days anymore. Like
Don't get me started on Kelly's.
I'd like to get you started on Kelly's.
Please, let's get him started on Kelly.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Kelly's.
What happened to Kelly's?
It was never good.
It's-
You guys were just young and stupid.
Is that it? Because
Yes.
I went back after a wedding and I was like, this is kind of trash.
If you remember Kelly's, if your college experience is similar to the time it was with me, Rob, and Chris, it was really busy on Thursday nights.
Yeah, of course.
Every 8th Friday it'd be busy, and that's it. So like the food was never great for non.
But they also had competition in our day.
Yeah.
Like they had Melodies and Erin
And
back in the
that's
day.
I
true.
just have
Food
a
is-
memory of the menu being bigger. And when I went back, I was like, oh, this is like the
Oh,
most
it's a-
bare
a single page menu now.
I've
They didn't
never
have a
actually
menu before.
eaten at Kelly's.
It's
I've
not
literally
bad.
only had
It's not
alcohol at
bad
Kelly's.
food.
I had fine food. My chicken wrap
Yeah.
was delicious.
I
But-
wouldn't
I'm
go
not
with
saying it's
delicious.
bad food. I've just
but-
literally never eaten there. I've
If
never
you
been
remember,
there
Chris,
at
it
any time.
was just single page, like 4 choices. Like they
Yeah,
were-
yeah. It wasn't a lot of choices. It was like very standard bar food that you would
Yeah.
expect to get outside of Philadelphia.
Totally.
like a bunch
But
of
it
Kelly's
did used to have a
defenders
large
in there.
menu, Willie. You're correct there.
Okay, I was like, I'm not tripping about that. Like, I remember having more options.
The hard thing with Kelly's was it was closed for a long time. They put all the money into it. They renovated it. They put that roof deck in, and they never got occupancy approval to allow customers outside. So the
Well,
entire second floor
that's
was
a
supposed to
mistake.
set up that deck, which is up to your shoulder, and you're not allowed to be out there as a customer.
Wow.
What was also interesting, Brian, is that I suggested going to Kelly's or Flips, and you were like, "Don't go to Flips."
Yes,
What like? And you
Oh,
it was
I-
just a food
it's
thing.
neighborhood bar now. It's not. It's fully just that neighborhood, not in a negative way. It's just families in that neighborhood, and then like local people that drink at bars from that neighborhood.
Okay.
And a lot of my friends live in that neighborhood. So if anybody clips this, like, come at me, bro. Like, I know you guys, but I don't want to eat there.
It's so weird that like a school like a Villanova wouldn't have better food options and bar options around it.
Well,
like,
that's when you go to the refectory. Come on.
oh well.
Can't get a
you want-
reservation there before a game.
I should have gotten a reservation there. That would have been a thing I would do. But
When you want to get high class dining.
yeah.
I told somebody
We
I
will
don't want
do
to
a
go there because
full-out-
it reminds me of priests, and then they were like, "That's called and I'm blanking on the name, and it's very similar."
I'm still upset that they did never
Oh,
that when they did the renovations and the new buildings that they didn't open a Chipotle style Mexican restaurant
Oh,
Called-
Southwest.
called Veritas Unitas Carnitas, and that would have been a
Big mistake.
that would have been a big hit.
What's that sounds like a funny joke. I'd like to know why.
Carnitas.
Carnitas.
Veritas Unitas Caritas is like the Villanova tagline, right?
Oh,
Like,
cool, fun. Okay, I like that. That
Yes.
plays.
So Veritas Unitas Carnitas would have been hilarious.
That plays. I like that.
I always like the joke of Veritas Unitas Securitas for public safety, but then
Except Securitas is the name of an actual security company.
yeah, it's
and
all right.
so
It doesn't matter. It's
There
pretty,
might
that's
be
probably
some-
trademarked.
copyright
I can tell
infringement.
you that the year my dorm building got lit on fire by a pipe, or not a pipe, a electrical wire that fell down during the ice storm.
Wait. You just said
Public
my
safety
building got
did
lit
not
on
help.
fire, and you said bye, and I was expecting you to say a human being.
Yeah.
No.
Like, no.
So my junior year, which was what, 2014, 2015.
Now people know your age.
There was a really bad ice storm, and like there was this tree. I lived in Fettigan, so I was like all the way like on like the Campco side of campus. Like I was like very close to
Fed.
Campco. And a tree, like it was too heavy, and the tree, like a tree limb like broke, knocked down an electrical wire, which cut power to all of campus, and also like basically lit our dorm building on fire. And there was that little like one man public safety stop station right there, because you could like drive in and like get dropped off at Fettigan.
Yeah. I know. What it is.
And the like it was like one of the older public safety guys, and he comes over and he's like got his like little uniform and his jacket and his little whatever hat or whatever, and he's like looking at it, and we're all looking out the window because it's dark, and we're like, what the hell is going on? And we're like looking, and this guy's like waving some stuff at it. He's like tossing some snow on it, and we're like, just call 911. Like this is
My
not
God.
like, you are not going to be the hero
Throwing
It's
snow
terrible.
at
down
a
this fire.
Oh my God. That's bad.
We were like, just call 911. Like this is not worth it.
That's
know
really
what?
bad.
Brian, the name of this episode has been changed to "Throwing Snow at Fire" because
That's
that is
what we're doing.
that is
Wow.
exactly what Villanova tried to do defensively versus Xavier on Saturday evening.
Villanova, Song of Ice on Fire.
Oof.
Gotta have more snow.
For the nerds, if you'll get my
So-
reference. Little Easter egg for you. But yeah, it was hilarious. And they ended up sending, like, they basically sent out an email that was like, we don't know when we're gonna get power back. If you can go home, please leave.
Yikes.
Like they like sent everybody home for like 5 days because they didn't know when they were gonna get power back, and they like couldn't feed people and heat the building. So they were like, please go home, please get out of here.
Oh my goodness,
That's wild.
that is wild. So
All right.
so let's turn all the way back.
Yeah.
right? So we've
Should
covered
do
a
a
lot of
preview?
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of preview, a little bit of like, okay, just like before we preview, like teams 8-8 now, like most likely result of this season is an NIT berth at best, right? Like
Which just
but-
feels gross.
it feels gross. Now that doesn't mean that I'm saying I'm writing our NCAA tournament berth hopes off to nothing, but the margin for error is now officially like pretty much nil. We have to win the next 3 games. DePaul, Butler, and Georgetown. All, like I would say, all pretty much must wins. You have to beat St. John's at MSG, and then
You have to be Providence.
you have to beat Providence too.
You have to.
You have to beat Providence too. And it's like I feel like we could lose one of those games and still be okay, but it's just like what Rob, you and I were going over this the other day with some of our buddies. Like it was you're looking at I want to pull it up because you're looking at like what this team has to accomplish in the next like several weeks, and it's like absolutely crazy. So like
Well, the first thing is like you're supposed to go 4-0 over the next 4
the
games.
first
right?
thing is next 4 you have to go 4-0.
Which just stop right there, because like yes, those are bad teams, but are we going to lose one of those 4 games? 100%.
Probably lose one of those
100%.
games.
I put good money on it.
The at Butler or at St. John's game feels like possible loss.
It just
Yeah.
really depends where St. John's is.
Yes.
There-
Is St. John's a fucking total mental mess, or have they started to figure it out? If they've started to figure it out, we might be in big trouble. If they're still a mess, we could probably win that game.
Yeah.
The game at Hinkle is going to be a mess because it's at Hinkle. So like, okay, so you get those 4, you have to go 4-0. Let's just
4-0,
say
3 of those are away. Fun.
Then you have if my math is right, that gets us to 9 games total in the Big East season. You have 11 left, and to get to 12-8 in the Big East play, you have to go 6-5 down the stretch there. That includes away at Marquette, away at Xavier, home versus UConn, both games versus Providence, both games versus Seton Hall, and both games versus Creighton. Now, let's just say you have you also have DePaul and Butler at home. And let's just say Hall has not been that great, though they do seem to start to figure a little bit out. But let's just say those 3 home games are wins. So you have to go 3-5 in a stretch of away at Marquette, away at X, home versus UConn, away at Hall, both games versus Providence, and both games versus Creighton. Are there 3 wins in that? Are there 3 wins in that?
What we're really putting ourselves in a struggle is, so we finished the year absurdly hard. Like,
Yes.
to your point, we finished at Providence, at Xavier, Creighton, at Seton Hall, home versus Connecticut. What we're doing with every subsequent loss is putting ourselves in a position to where we have to go 3-2 in that, if not 4-1, to feel decent. Obviously, meaning we win everything else. And like we said, at Providence, at Xavier, at the Hall, Connecticut coming to the Wells Fargo Center, and Creighton. We have to protect home court. We just have to. I think we can afford one more home loss, and let's just say that's Connecticut. We have to beat Providence at home. I don't see how you can build a tournament resume, an NCAA tournament resume, without beating Providence at home and protecting home the rest of the way. Unless we go on the road and we win every road game, which I'm just saying words at this point because that's not going to happen.
I was going to say, I feel like just saying words is the overall description of trying to come to a way that Villanova can make the NCAA tournament. Because you're literally just making shit up. Yeah. And it's like, we've talked about this. We've talked about this earlier this season. You can math your way to 12-8. Are you going to bet on it? Absolutely fucking not.
Yeah.
100% not.
You can't. And candidly, we're sitting here on January 9th. We had the whole, Rob, you weren't on the discussion, but we had the whole discussion on the last podcast about when will Justin Moore come back? Right? And it's oh, you were on it. We actually talked about it with Paul Frischner, yeah. But it was, when will Justin Moore come back? Right?
Never.
And is he coming back? Right? Inside
he's
info,
not coming back.
Inside info, not revealing sources, etc. But just what I've been told or whatever is that this is Justin Moore's last season on the main line. Does he have another year of eligibility? Yes. He technically, if he sat out all year, would have 2 more years of eligibility, provided he can get the medical redshirt waiver, which I don't think would be hard to come by. So he'd have 1 or 2 more years of eligibility after this year, but he's leaving after this season. Yeah. So because he's older, he wants to pursue professional basketball. That's the information I've been told. So my attitude then is, if he can come back at all, I want him to come back. Right? Because I'd at least like to watch Justin Moore play in a Villanova uniform a couple more times, just very selfishly. Right? But at this point, your guards are Arch and Mark Armstrong. Right? We have to war game this season as if Mark and Arch are sharing the point guard roles for the rest of the season, hands down. Right? I believe that Justin Moore, I still believe that Justin Moore is actually going to suit up for the Georgetown game, but and then we're going to see him progress his time until early February. But there's no news. There's no more further information after we heard that he was full participant in practice, etc. I've heard that he's in the huddles, he's yelling at the guys, he's got a great relationship with the players on the team. They feel a lift from him being at practice, etc. But until he feels comfortable, we don't know if he's going to come back. Now, we talked about this on the last podcast. I'll say it one more time. I don't think Justin's making any decisions based on how the team has performed. I just don't believe that to be the case. That's not what a competitor does, right? So the team's 8-8, so I'm not going to come back. I don't buy that for 1 minute that's what he's thinking. As I said before, I think the thinking that he has is actually quite the opposite. It's 8-8. I'm going to get this team back to the tournament. So that's where I think he's at, but we just don't know if he's going to come back. So presuming that he's not coming back, you're rolling out this roster. It's 60 on KenPom. We're projected to go 9-11 in Big East play via KenPom. All of this is, Rob, to make your point, you can't bet on Villanova making the NCAA tournament at this point. Or if you do, just know what the risk you're getting into.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, we've rehashed this to death. I feel like everybody knows where we stand at this point. We've talked about Justin Moore. We've got to do two things. Like, one, we've got to do a little bit of a preview, a look ahead to the other games. Two, we also have to do a quick heart monitor. Maybe we should do that as a quick positive, because there were a lot of positives from some of the Villanova alumni over the past week, which would be a nice change of pace for all the negativity.
I like it. Go ahead.
So we can definitely get into a heart monitor. Just saying, like, if you did want to bet on Villanova, bet the national championship, I'm seeing plus like 150,000. So, like, you could become a millionaire. So
you could.
So
in theory,
what's behind door number one? But if we're looking at a heart monitor, speaking of millionaires, we have 8 of them in the NFL, in the NBA, who all of whom are like, or it might be 8, I think it's not. It's like 8.5. I'll give a person a shout out. Arch is just on the bench of the Knicks. He's, living, collecting a paycheck because
he's getting that paycheck. He's getting
collecting a paycheck because the Knicks have a savior in one Jalen Brunson.
He's so good.
He's so good.
He is currently. It's in there. They're in the back end of the third quarter versus the Bucks right now at MSG, and he's currently got 24, 6, and 4 with 15 minutes of gameplay left. So
damn, it's an off night.
There's just like, I think he can be an all-star this year. Like, it's gonna be like he'll probably be the last person in if he gets it, but like, I don't know. The Knicks have become not just relevant, but like they're not bad. Julius Randle's taken a step forward after like having a weird year last year. And like,
Adir Randle,
and he gives credit to like Brunson. Like, it's made his game easier. So big shout out to Jalen Brunson. By far I'm not gonna say by far, but like definitely our best NBA player right now.
We should call him Jalen Hometown Discount Brunson, because right now the value of his contract is absolutely a hometown discount.
And it's also declining. Also, he signed a contract where he gets more now and it declines over time. So the Knicks really got a good discount there.
It's not too shabby.
Next person is Mikhail. Mikhail's doing well, for anyone who's worried. He's having a career year scoring wise. He's taking more of the load offensively in Phoenix.
Suns suck.
The Suns kind of are bad, but like they're good because they're the Suns, but they're also bad. But Mikhail's got his money. Mikhail was second in defensive player of the year. He's going to be all first team defense this year, more than likely. Mikhail's well on his way. I would argue Mikhail and Jalen are both, if you don't think they're top 50 players or top 75.
Rachel has her hand raised, but I'm gonna raise my hand first. We got to talk about, you can't mention Mikhail without talking about his Iron Man streak.
No, Chris, that's what I wanted to say. God damn it.
Guys, it's
Rachel,
so dated. It's so dated. It's not even relevant.
You guys talking about Mikal Bridges?
He just broke some records.
Mikhail crossed a record in the NBA.
Ago.
He literally has started every single game or played in every single game in the NBA. The man, it's like perfect attendance in high school times like 700. It's ridiculous.
Every single game that's ever happened.
Yes,
since he came into the
past,
league.
present, and future, he is father time.
Yep.
I love
He
Mike
has not
Bridges.
missed a game yet.
It's crazy.
It's something about like them soft bones. I don't know. His like brittle bones. It can't get hurt.
He's just needs to give Jordan some of those soft bones.
He's like Gumby or something. I don't know, but yeah, he's literally, it's crazy.
Yo, can we go to Josh Hart? Can we go to Josh Hart? Josh,
that's what's going to go next.
Man, Shaq Fit man play of the week right here. Doesn't go to any of the current players, but oh my gosh, if you haven't seen this play, Josh, like, he's thriving in Portland. I love Josh Hart. He just brings the positive, like, I'll do it all attitude no matter where he's been. Guy's been traded around the league from the G League, made his mark at the Lakers, got traded to New Orleans, was like, embraced New Orleans, traded up to Portland. He's having a great year. He's absolutely threw it down. What was it, at the end of a half, I want to say?
It was at the end of the half versus, was it the Pelicans? I don't remember who he was playing. Basically someone, but had a monstrous dunk.
It was really dirty. I liked it. You don't see that from Josh too often.
It was a very different play for Josh.
Yeah.
Dante has had a really good last month or so. For anyone hasn't been paying attention, he had 2 huge plays back to back in 2 separate games. The first game, stole there was like 30 seconds left on the clock, maybe around 40. Blazers are down by like 2 or 1. He is defending Damian Lillard, has been defending Damian Lillard in like, I'm not going to say shutting him down, but like did a really good job on the last 3 minutes of him. Steals the ball from Damian Lillard, comes down, gets in a pick and roll, gets the ball and shoots a 3, like not over Josh, but like Josh was close to defending him. And so was Damian Lillard, and drills it to give the Warriors and like solidify it and slam the door. And then the very next game, there's a mad scramble. The Warriors are down 3. They need a 3-pointer. Clay takes one, misses. Jordan Poole takes a stupid one, misses. It gets tapped out a la Vlade Divac in 2002 out to Robert Horry, and Dante catches it and drills a 3 with like 0.005 seconds left on the clock to send the game to overtime, which they later win. So
the word on the street is that Bob Myers is debating whether or not Steph Curry should even come back, or whether they'll just give the minutes to Dante. That is the word on the street.
I heard that.
I don't know what the actual number is anymore, but I believe, I'm going to just do some funny math. The Warriors are like 2-10 without Dante, and like 20-10 with him. Whatever their numbers are, they're way better when Dante plays. Can't say that about Steph Curry. That's all I'm going to say.
That's straight facts right there. He has Steph Curry like shooting abilities. Some people would say he's probably the next coming, but you heard it here first.
To wrap up, some heart monitor. Sadiq Bey has been bouncing between the bench and starting in Detroit. Has had a fine year, but it's kind of like taking a little bit of a step back.
Yeah.
He's still going to get paid. He will make $60 million plus on his next contract.
That's all right.
And then JRE has an ankle injury. He's been out for a while.
Wait, you glossed over Sadiq's game winner.
Oh, snap. I forgot about the game winner versus the Warriors.
Yeah, you're like, he's having a nice year. I'm like, yeah, he fucking buried a game winner over the Warriors. Like, I believe it was over Dante too, I want to say.
It was like around, it was like over Dante.
It was around Dante. Yeah, we'll do that.
But it was, I forgot about that game winner. Yeah, he completely drilled that. Kyle's just, still old, steady, and dependable. JRE's had an ankle injury. He's been out. So I don't think he's played much this year. And then my 0.5, I'm just going to give him the tiniest shout out. People are going to be mad. Cole Swider scored his first NBA points. So for everyone who had all the debates and the consternation we've had over Cole Swider, he got in a game and he scored his first bucket like 2 games ago, a 3-pointer clearly. So I don't know, Cole Swider officially on the NBA record books.
Why are we talking about a guy from Syracuse? They're not even in the league.
Good for him. That's impressive.
Add a couple of honorable mention heart monitor things here. One, Brian Westbrook was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, college football.
So credit to him. Long overdue, by the way. He's been out of college football for 25 years.
Yeah, that's weird. That seems weird.
But really good to see him get in there. And he's someone who's, by the way, he's gotten reconnected with Villanova quite a bit. We saw him at the Rob. We saw him at our Compton Ale House.
He's around a decent amount.
I was gonna say, was he disconnected? He seems like he's always been around.
I mean, he played a professional football career, so he couldn't be as around as But like, you never know.
He's not
after a guy graduates,
he's always around Eagles stuff. So maybe his kids are older now, so he has more time to do more Nova stuff. Yeah, because he's been on the Eagles radio since he retired.
And then Jay Wright took a picture with the Buc-ee's mascot, the Buc-ee's, the fucking convenience store in Texas.
Oh, Buc-ee's!
Yes, Buc-ee's.
Yeah, Buc-ee's. Yeah. Buc-ee's is the shit.
Yeah, it is awesome. He took a picture with their like mascot and on his way to, call a game for CBS for like Mississippi State or some shit.
Probably hated on some freshmen there. Franchises that should be nationwide that are not. One is Buc-ee's. Should absolutely be Buc-ee's should be the standard for rest stops across the country. Full stop. You can't disagree with that. It's amazing.
Wawa.
It's like a Target, and Wawa is the other one.
Okay, I didn't want to like
I've never been to
a Buc-ee's, so I was like, before I
should have led with Wawa.
Buc-ee's is the shit. but Wawa should also be nationwide. It still blows my mind that Wawa is not in New York City, but that's
What about Carl's Jr.?
no Carl's Jr.
Parties?
No, stop.
Del Taco?
Stop. Have you heard of this chain called McDonald's? They're
Yeah.
small, they're growing.
We've
Good
never gone to war with a
burgers.
country that has a McDonald's, except if you count Ukraine.
Are we?
And that's that fact stopped being true in 1918.
Well, all right.
Real quick, just we're talking about Heart Monitor. Jay Wright to Kentucky. The rumors are starting.
Love
And
that.
by the rumors are starting, I'm starting them. But also, if you're on Big Blue Nation, they are already like bring Jay Wright, which is hilarious.
I love that.
It's hilarious how much they're gonna hate him and he brings him in.
Like they would despise him.
They
He's
would
such the
hate
anti Kentucky coach.
It's also
Holy
so
shit.
funny because it's like he very much quit because of NIL, and now you expect Kentucky to take
Yeah,
him.
like stop, please. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So
Kentucky and Jay Wright is like one of the worst matches ever.
I
Maybe,
could see him
maybe
at Louisville, though.
Lewis,
The other school in that state.
All right. And then not Heart Monitor, Villanova basketball player, but our alpha dog of the week again, because Rachel got this 100%. Rachel's got this 100% correct.
You can't see me, but I'm like pumping my fist in the air, being like, "Ma flipping girl, let's
Yeah.
go."
2,300 points total in
Damn.
her career.
That's awesome.
Maddie Segrest, and she is at 28.5 points per game. She is the leader in college basketball, women's college basketball, for scoring this season by a full point game per average. So she leads Kishana Washington at Drexel, Caitlin Clark at Iowa, and Anisha Morrow from DePaul, all who are probably all three of them are talked about a little bit more nationally than Maddie Segrest, but Maddie Segrest still leads all of them in scoring. So
I was gonna say,
She's-
Chris, like the fact that like Caitlin Clark is on that list, she's probably one of, if not the most recognized name in women's college basketball. Like
Yeah,
it's like Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark. Like those are like the people that like at the top of the list when like in the broader sports world.
and Paige Becker's too, but she's
Right,
hurt.
but like
But she's
Paige is
hurt,
out.
yeah.
So like Paige has kind of been replaced by Ozzie Fudd this year, but Ozzie
Yeah.
Fudd has even been out,
Yeah.
which begs another whole situation with, and this is not a Villanova podcast topic, but it is a women's college basketball topic where like UConn women's basketball had
They're
to
playing like
postpone.
6 players.
They had to postpone a game because
Yeah.
this weekend they couldn't play against DePaul in their Big East game because they only had 6 active players. Like, and the Big East rule is you have to have 7 active scholarship players in order to like field a team. Even Gino Auriemma was going to be out for that
Yeah.
game. Like
Wild.
that's
Sounds
what
like a
like that's the
Providence
crazy
game.
part about this.
So
But yeah,
one quick, so we're obviously keeping track of Maddie about to pass Shelly Pennyfather. She's 108 points away, which probably puts her at the rate.
games.
She's 4 games, which would likely be at Creighton. I'm just obviously Maddie has led us in scoring in every single game. Here's my question to the pod: what is there a greater chance of someone else leading the women's basketball team in scoring other than Maddie Segrest, or Villanova men's basketball making the NCAA tournament as an at-large?
Oof. Well, we're not making the tournament as an at-large, so I guess the other one.
Oh man, jeez.
maybe
don't-
Maddie has an off night or takes like a rest game. I don't know.
Do I get an exception if and I don't want to frozen ether, but if there's some reason like a COVID illness or something like that where she can't play, does that not count?
No, Maddie has to be on the floor and playing.
Okay, so if she has something that keeps her from playing a game,
Yeah.
okay, that doesn't count. Okay, then yeah, I think that it's a greater chance that we make the NCAA tournament as an at-large, which she basically means that she's going to outscore everybody.
Yeah.
For every game.
What I love is like we are potentially also going to have after the season concludes. And again, I don't know what Maddie's plans are. Like, I'm not friends with her. I'm not close to her whatsoever. She does DM or like our DMs occasionally, or like our mentions of her on social posts, which is nice of her. Thanks for the engagement, girlfriend. But I am really curious to see what happens with her in the WNBA draft. And I'm also, if she does decide to go to the WNBA, I'm like kind of excited to have a woman to track on the heart monitor. She's
Yeah,
the first
that'd
one
be cool.
ever. Like that
That'd
would
be
be
super
so
cool.
cool.
Absolutely.
It'll be
It's
interesting
her-
timing just because it's like opposite seasons, but we'll figure it out.
I mean, fair. We can still tweet about it.
That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'll just start a women's basketball podcast.
I just want to point out like a couple things about her statistics. Okay, because they're fucking insane. So we mentioned 28.5 points a game, 9.7 rebounds a game. She's almost averaging a double-double on 28.5 points a game. Like that's fucking crazy.
It's pretty good.
And 53% field goal percentage overall, 42% from deep, and 85.5% from the line. That's
Dare I say that
Sure.
those are like what like okay, let's do this. What would be the like that's like dare I say that's like Jalen Brunson-esque numbers?
Yes.
it's
Like
that's
like
better,
I'm like what
better,
would be
better.
Maddie's equivalent on the men's side of the last like decade, I guess.
You would have to. It would be
Put
a
it in
guy
perspective for
averaging like
people.
No.
20, 10, and like
You mean a Villanova player?
a
Yeah,
Villanova player.
like what would be like the men's Villanova player?
Yeah, Jalen, I guess, is
Yeah.
probably
Probably Sadiq that second year because his stats were so high. Because Jalen wasn't always our leading scorer that year. Like
Oh, I get
he
your
was the
point,
best
Brian.
player.
He was the best
but-
rebounder and scorer on the team. Is that
Yeah,
your
Sadiq just had a stat line like a high stat line every game this sophomore year.
I mean, not bad company though. Either way.
Yeah.
Lottery NBA pick. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. That's like that was really the
Not
point I
bad.
was trying to make.
Yeah.
but-
And all of that adds to Villanova women just got back ranked top 25 in their poll. So the team is also being successful as well. Okay, we did an extended heart monitor. Preview of the next few games. We got the DePaul Blue Demons on tap.
Oh my God, let's wrap it up. We're over an hour. Like, geez.
You're the one who wanted to go heart monitor first, man.
Dude, we're over an hour. This team sucks. Come on. Like,
Yeah, but 10 minutes of it was about Maddie Segrist. You know, it's fine.
We're off the rails.
I'm okay with this. I'm like, I told you guys I was drinking like straight tequila earlier. Like, it is fucking hitting right now.
Well,
Good God.
if you just wasted a minute complaining about wasting
I'll
time.
waste
So-
another minute. I'm done with this team.
Jesus Christ. Let Willie talk. Willie, give me some DePaul.
DePaul. I'm gonna just do DePaul. I mean, the classic DePaul. They started off decent, have lost a bunch. They're like decently long. They like are a bunch of 6'6" to like 6'9" players. Javon Johnson, I think, was an Iowa State transfer. I'm making that up. He's been playing pretty good. Iowa State by way of Troy. Yeah, I mean, DePaul's projected to lose basically every game for the rest of the year. We can't lose this game. That's just DePaul. We can't lose this game.
You can't lose the game. The shame of this is that they have some talent on that roster, but they've been so injured. Stubblefield's not a bad coach. They've been so injured that it's just totally derailed their entire season.
Yeah, there's just it's a bummer for them because I want DePaul to be like plucky good. Like they're plucky bad. I want to be plucky good. We're like, oh, are they going to be like an actual bubble team? Even though they have the size,
Away from that.
yeah, right. Even though they have like decent size, I guess like a bunch of 6'6" players. I don't know. We're better than them. We shouldn't lose. Who knows what's going to happen when we go there? But
We won't
Really
lose to
suck-
DePaul.
really
We won't
suck.
lose to DePaul.
Butler, on the other hand.
All of those people will probably lose. to
yeah. So
Butler. So I want to say one thing first. Rob, you brought up the guy from Houston, and you loved how ripped he was.
So-
You're gonna love Manny Bates at Butler.
Ooh.
This guy is absolutely fucking yoked. You are going to love Manny Bates. He is a fucking unit. This guy.
Ooh,
Manny
I gotta
Bates
find him.
has absurd shoulders.
Ooh,
He's
wow.
a tank. He is Butler's best player.
For anyone
he is-
viewing the podcast, you'll get an image pretty quickly. It'll be quite exciting.
He is their best player. He is responsible for their defensively. Like he's an amazing shot blocker. So we will see a bunch of stupid shots get blocked just into the stands at Hinkle from him. Then Butler just has, a bunch of the same players: Chuck Harris, Jaden Taylor, Lucosius, all players that we've played before. Overall, I mean, Butler is very similar to us. They're in an ideal way. They play smart. They play together. They're not going to make mistakes too often. They aren't an absurdly good three-point shooting team, but they're good at getting into the lane and hitting buckets, especially feeding Manny Bates, who has 25 dunks on the year, so he's been doing really well there. I think this is a game, if we're going to win, that this is one where, I don't know who they throw on Cam. And first off, who does anyone throw on Cam, really? UConn had one answer in Andre Jackson, but that's about it.
Ali, maybe? No.
Yeah, but then you lose so much offensively. So I say all that to say,
so how do we find a way to lose that game at Hinkle?
So it's almost like, I don't mean any disrespect. I think we are a better team than Butler. But that also hasn't meant anything all season for us. But I'm almost like, what's the Hinkle differential? How many points is being at Hinkle going to be worth to Butler? Is it worth 4 or is it worth 14? So we'll just see.
This is a team that we could lose by 7 to at Hinkle and turn around and beat by 30 when we play them later in the season.
Yep. Who does anyone know if their students are back yet?
I don't know, but Thad Matta's back.
I'd imagine they're on a similar schedule to Villanova. And
I bet that they're allowed to come back and stay in the dorms for this game. That's going to be my guess, because it's MLK weekend, and then Tuesday classes start and syllabus week starts. That's my guess. I don't know. You could call Dean Danko though if you want to.
Jim.
Jimmy.
I haven't thought about Jim in a long time.
So anyway,
so that's Butler. I think
we don't need to cover Georgetown.
Yeah, and then Georgetown once again, just don't fucking lose.
Yeah, let's hope the streak's still alive.
We have Georgetown DePaul in the same kind of week of games. So as a DePaul fan put it to me today, they say, as we say here in Chicago, thank God for Georgetown.
Holy shit.
So yeah, we have two games that we absolutely should win in the next.
Oh my goodness! 3. Sorry, Georgia's crushing TCU.
It's ugly. The national championship
last question: could either one of you have coached Georgetown to 1 victory in the past 25 Big East games?
Yes. I believe I could have.
I think I could have as well.
I
feel really confident.
I realize how absurd that comment sounds. It says hey, Patrick Ewing has been in basketball for 50 plus years of his life.
Patrick Ewing genuinely ball.
And I genuinely believe that I could coach that Georgetown team over the last 2 years to 1 victory.
1. You just got to get 1.
1.
Yeah, but would you have expected a paycheck? Because if so, that would be a crisis.
No paycheck for free. I believe I could have gotten 1 win. Yes.
Yeah, school would take it.
No, they wouldn't take it because they're weird.
No, if you did it for free, they would take it.
They wouldn't take it because there's Georgetown. It's weird. It's just weird.
I need to change my career aspirations to be Georgetown head coach. The aspiration is
either way,
below mediocrity, and you get paid a boatload of money. It's great.
So you have choices. You could go to Congress or Georgetown basketball.
Georgetown basketball pays way more.
They're both in DC. So you're good.
Georgetown basketball plays 10x.
You could definitely.
You'll never be voted out of Georgetown basketball. Clearly.
Yes.
Right.
The term limits are way better at
that is what we call job security.
Oh my God. Holy shit. Crazy.
So that's it. We are not going to do another podcast until after the Georgetown game.
Ever.
Maybe ever. And then we'll do a podcast covering those 3 games and a St. John's preview. And then following the St. John's game, we'll have a podcast, which we got to get an interview. We haven't had one in a bit. So even though we had one in the last podcast, we need a Villanova interview. And we'll do that before we have the Providence game. So, all right, that's all we got for today. Thank you everybody for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.